Hello, everyone, and welcome in. Happy Sunday to all of you. Thank you all so much for being here. I just have to say how amazing yesterday was. I set up at my local antique show here. I was absolutely inspired by a lot of people that showed up, both past friends and new friends, and I had the great privilege to meet four people that watch my channel. And one couple, thank you so much. You know who you are. You traveled 2 hours away to come see me, and I really appreciate it. And it was a delight to meet you in real life. So you're asking yourself, what are we going to talk about today? Are we going to talk about Jason's vintage and antique writing pen collection? And I'm going to say no, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. So the reason for this video, what I've noticed is the great response to my shows and tells, and then my descriptions of items, and then brief evaluation. You have to understand, for the last 4.5 years of my life, my only job was to authenticate and evaluate anything that was put in front of me. Oil paintings, bronzes, lamps and lighting, decorative arts, stamp collections, coin collections, you name it, decorative arts, antique glass, vintage art pottery, and fountain pens and writing utensils. So why I bring these on is this is just a very small cross section of some of the antique and vintage pens that I've amassed over, boy, it's been 28 years strong. And I think my first pen, let's see if I can't put my hand on it right now. Maybe it was this one. Let me look here. No, it wasn't that. Well, it may have been this one. So it's hard rubber, and it started my fascination with materials. And why I show you these is the materials that were used. Please stick with me with this video, because I'm going to show some of my artwork, and then I'm going to show some of my earliest jewelry collections from when I was back in high school and when I was back in college, and the formative years of my collection and how I amassed the things that I did, and then also what I personally reached for and what I personally was collecting. And I'll touch on some of the values of, like, maybe what I paid for something way back when and what it's worth today. So these down here are sterling silver. I don't store these this way because pens being plastic and metal, there is a sensitivity to material that sometimes, like materials like to stay together. I think this one has a sterling cap on it, and I love that dove gray kind of barrel that, and the jeweled top. I mean, the attention to detail of antique and vintage items. You might ask yourself, like, why pens and pencils? And then I say, well, why not? Look at the oxidation on the surface of that celluloid that, it's got, like, it looks two-tone, but that's because that's where someone's hand was. Just seeing that use, that this item was, a pendant watch or a pendant pencil to be able to write notes and things throughout the day. Now we just have, we have a screen and a stylist. And I say to myself, no, not for this guy. Pens and vintage pens are highly collectible, but anyways, you can kind of see why. You can kind of see the seduction of color and form and quality, and just the fineness of, many times, 14 karat gold and gold nibs that were on the tips of these for writing. So you can kind of see, okay, so that kind of gives you the landscape of that I just didn't stop at jewelry. It was this constant love affair of craft and form, a sterling silver pencil. Really, we'll talk about makers like Parker, Duofold, Schaefer, Conklin, Waterman, you name it, we'll talk about it. We'll get into that eventually. And I so appreciate you letting me share that really quick. Let me make sure that these go away in the right container, because now I need to get them separated, and I appreciate your patience with my videos. So, what I want to do today was show you some of the art pieces that I was able to construct and make over the years, and the progress of my art. And this is almost embarrassing in a way, but not really. So this is one of my first pendants that I ever created in metals. in metals class in college, and we had to do a like a production line of jewelry for our annual holiday sale. And for my first sale, I think I was in my, maybe this was my third semester in studio jewelry at the university. And I created a line of these, and they were very Art Nouveau inspired, but they were completely hand fabricated out of flat sheet. And, it's kind of embarrassing because my craft and my skill became much better over the years, obviously, like any artist, but this was one of my earliest ones, and I thought it interesting to show everyone kind of where I started my jewelry making career, if you will. And it's still a career. I'm still doing it. I'm just not doing it full time. I do it quietly now for self-enjoyment and then occasionally for commissions. And I'm going to continue to do that through this next year and make time for that, because in my last job, it didn't allow me the time or luxury for creating and crafting. So that was one of my first ones. And then I made these like pigtail linked chains with pearls. And then I always fabricated my clasps. And these works were not signed because they were so early in my quote metals career. But you can see how kind of rough that was. I cut these out by hand and filed and sanded them down. And then I made these beautiful silhouettes. And then I had to give her something to hold. So it was kind of that asymmetrical lavalier or drop style necklace. I always wanted them sizable, but not too large because of the expense of silver back then. And when I was creating these, a fun fact, silver was $3.28 an ounce. $3.28 an ounce. And you might ask yourself, did you make this in 1936? No, this was like 1993. No, 1994. About 1994 when I was creating these. And then silver went up to a staggering like $8. And then it went up to another staggering $12. And now what are we at today? 30 something an ounce, 30 or who knows what, 32. It fluctuates so greatly. So I wanted to show that. For the people who've asked about my art, and then I just wanted to show this progress. I guess I could leave that out. Here, we'll leave this to the side, and then I'll do a comparison, contrast. So then there was this one, and as an artist, I had a lot of access to found objects, found objects of, pieces and parts and vintage components and pieces like at the thrift store. So when I couldn't afford to buy a stone to set, I would go to the thrift and buy like a junk bag for 90 cents, and everyone here locally remembers the Village Discount Outlet. And I was a fixture there 3 times a day. And every bag of jewelry they hung up was 90 cents, was stapled shut at 90 cents back in the day. And I would buy as many as I could afford, which may have only been, 3 or 4 a day, But I bought a bag and it had this brooch that was like junk metal and gold plated and just pure garbage for metal. And it had this hand carved mother of pearl shell cameo that was hand carved inset in it. And I said to myself, well, she's far too beautiful to be in a junk metal. So I raced home and I got situated at the apartment because I had a studio apartment at the time. And I took her out of the metal very carefully. And then I decided to construct this kind of arts and crafts styled frame. And then I put little tabs, I soldered on little sterling tabs to then hold this cameo in from the verso, from the back. And then what I did is I created this kind of, I was going with like a whiplash, but still stylized, symmetrical frame that then I hammered these little tiny textured dots to give that surface another detail. At that point, I didn't have enough money to buy wire to then bead the wire and apply it to the surface like I wanted to. So my designs were limited at the time because of finances. I didn't come from money. I didn't come from great wealth. I earned every dollar when I was in school, and my family and my parents really did help me through that process. But it was left up to me, it was, I had to struggle, and the struggle was real, but I did this because this is the amount of money I had at the time. And then I dropped down this Mabe pearl pearl that I found in another junk bag that was like a single earring. So I always kept parts and components, and still to this day, I have thousands and thousands and thousands of stones and baubles and pieces and parts. I had this great tendency not to want to throw anything away. Things like that weren't disposable to me. They were important to me, and you could see the color play between the cameo and the pearl and that sensitivity to that drop. So I soldered that chain, I soldered the jump rings, I soldered the jump ring to the top there. I always used very thin metal because I wanted to make it look antique without being a reproduction. Then I wanted festoon chains, because I didn't want just a pendant with a frumpy chain. Like, there's the Progress. That was like early. This was the second version. And then you'll see the third version in just a second that you've already seen before. So the sensitivity to putting those 3 chains that then come down to that drop. Look how that goes around the neck. Look how sensual and gorgeous and beautiful that became. So again, I didn't have money to go buy a sterling silver chain, and I didn't want to buy a sterling silver chain. I wanted to fabricate this whole thing, and that's technically a paperclip style chain. So it's ovals that are soldered shut and then made elliptical. You can see the solder seams, and what I wanted people to see with my work is good craft, but I wanted them to see that these things were hand constructed and hand soldered. I didn't want to make my work look commercial. I didn't want to make it look like everybody else's. And this most certainly didn't at the time. I think this one was 1997. No, it was 1996, 1997. So just years later, you could see the progress of incorporating a found object and then furthering this design sense. So that's the progress of my work. And like I said, it's kind of embarrassing to look at these early ones, but I love them. It's part of what my work was about the progress of an artist. And I should probably just stop the video at that today, because I have so much more to say and I have so much more to share. And I hope you're enjoying this, but please stay tuned for the vintage items, because I am going to bring on pieces that were with me very early on. And you can see the escalation, how quickly things then took off. So I was still using vintage parts and components. This is an antique chain with turquoise. So I was starting to use antique chains at the time that were broken or missing pieces or needed repairs along the way. So I would repair them, restore them, and I would use them then in my work. This I pierced out by hand. I also pierced all of this out by hand, and then I enameled the surface. This is, as you've seen before in one of my videos, that was a razor blade handle. The razor blade was celluloid and technically ivorine or ivoroid. So it's French ivory, technically celluloid, plastic, not elephant ivory. I wouldn't use that in my work. The striations are very regular, very, even. So that's an indicator that is celluloid, French ivory. And what I did is I cut her out with a jeweler's saw. And she was Venus, like on the clamshell in the sea. And I cut her out of the razor blade handle. The razor blade handle was circa 1875, 1880. And I had wanted one of these pendants, Art Nouveau pendants, for decades, since I was little, and very much so loved that naturalistic dragonfly woman standing in foliate leaves and then these electric berries. So I couldn't afford one. I think at the time they were like $60,000 or $80,000. Now they're like $200,000 to $300,000. And so instead of giving up hope, I found that handle and I cut her out. I sawed her out, and then I sanded her down and I finished her. I put her on 2 rivets from behind. This whole construction is all hand soldered and hand constructed. So that's all my hand, soldering all these wires together and the bezels together, and then bezel setting all of those shell stones. I did use an antique coral drop. So that is from an antique something, an antique Victorian earring, maybe a lavalier pendant. I soldered all of those together over and over and over. And then the overlay was very intentional. So as I was designing this, think about the forward thought that I had to have to solder these 2 wires in from behind. And to think that that would then fold over and grace her body, form to her body. That was, I'll tell you, I really am surprised by some of the earlier designs that I did, because technically this was very difficult. This was not easy to do. What I loved about this is I knew it would oxidize over time, and when so many antique dealers see me wearing this at shows, they stop me because they think it's the $300,000 version. And then I tell them, no, I made that. And then they fight with me. No, there's no way. You didn't make that. And I said, no, I made it, and I'll show you why. And then I take it off and I show them my hand, all over it. And this was a direct inspiration of Art Nouveau, that secondary kind of lavalier drop. I hope that's showing up okay today. So I hope you're enjoying this so far. Okay, so I don't want to idle too much more. 15 minutes in, and this wasn't about my art. It wasn't supposed to be, and here we are. So there's the kind of triad, or let's call them the three graces today. Those are my three graces. So that's the first, and that's the second, and that's the third. And not in complexity would I say that there was an elevation of my design or skill, but you can see that that's how an artist kind of, starts somewhere, begins, and then continues, and then really continues. And today, my designs are much more complex. They're not as simple as this one even. So, and what I decided to do early on was I wanted to, let me get these out of the way safe and sound. What I wanted to do for a 10,000 subscriber celebration is bring on, I think I'm going to bring on the items from my senior show. I think that's the best way to celebrate, and I'm so close. So that's why I keep thinking, I really want to get there, because I've been waiting now a year to show those pieces. So thank you for letting me show those, and I hope you enjoyed that part of the video. Now let's get into the antique and vintage items. Oops, no, we're going to show one more thing. And when people see this one, they still fight with me. Now I made this one too. I went to the thrift store, and there was a single glass panel, which this is glass, and we're okay to call it crystal if it is technically like leaded glass or leaded crystal. So this is glass, and it's reverse painted to make look like a sulfide. And what you're seeing behind is butterfly wing. And when you look at the old ones, I don't have one out on my desk, or do I? Let me look real quick. Let me look and see. Oh, okay. Here we go. So this is whoa, I almost dumped a whole tray. I shouldn't reach for things. This is what we're used to seeing with butterfly wing and English. And absolutely gorgeous and old and early. So this is an old one. And what I did is I had a bag full of these tissues, or like those glassine folders, those little paper file folders that are glassine. And in there was butterfly wings. And I thought, well, I'm going to use those in a project. So when I found this glass panel, you know what I did? I raced home and I constructed this whole thing. I signed it sterling here, and I did a fold over bail, so I soldered that together. And then this is all me soldering this together. I did use a rollover commercial, and it's like I wish at times I wouldn't have, but this is all me. That's all my hand. Back panel, the bail, the finding, and then the bezel. So that's all me. There's my solder seam. So let's cut to the chase here. This is an old one. This is Jason Adams. So I used the butterfly wings from behind. I cut the butterfly wings out of the glassicine paper, put it in behind the crystal, and I reverse painted her in white. Now, when I painted her, by the way, because I'm not a painter by any stretch, I took the brush and I got in there and I did that plant, but then I had to rub off all of the extra paint with I had a little scraper, X-Acto knife, because I overpainted the whole thing. So all that would go down in there, and then I had to scrape off all that excess. Look how good I did. I almost surprise myself sometimes. But yeah, that's a Jason Adams original, and then someone will say, it looks like you made that in 1900. I sometimes say I really surprised myself by some of the things I've accomplished, but I don't think about those. That's the first time I even thought about bringing that on. Okay, enough about my work. Even though there's 3 more pieces out on the desk, I'm not going to do it. I will talk about some pendants I want to bring on. So if you're into antique and vintage and turquoise and sterling, you can kind of see why from my artwork to these, you'll see why I picked these. And then this one's amber. So you'll see why I pick certain pieces in my collection. I love naturalistic designs. I love things that are powerful in form, ornate, but not necessarily overdone. There's a certain point where in metal, you need to say, that's too much. And I had a great tendency early on to overwork my pieces. And then I see something like this is truly ornate, but look, it's not overworked. Someone might say that's busy, it's visual static, and I would challenge them and say, this wouldn't be as magical if it didn't have the layers to that. There's a Zito fur, I think. Yeah, that's a little... Zito keeps... My bull terrier that passed away a few years ago, he keeps visiting me more recently in these videos, and it's actually a beautiful thing to see. So if you see the occasional pet fur, know that I'm not going to get rid of it. And if it offends you, turn the channel. So this, and I say that politely, this is amber, and I don't know what else to say. I'll just say that I love this and it's beautiful. And okay, design aesthetic. That's why I show those two. And I'll be bringing on, I think what I'm going to do is do like a parade of pendants one day. I was thinking about some of my coming videos. Now what we're going to go into is a box that you'll have to give me a little bit of grace and a little bit of forgiveness. This is a letter from my mom from years ago. This is a long time ago letter from my mother. And that's in the top of the box. So that should tell you that you're going to be in the presence of some really important and very early pieces out of my collection. Now, some of these pieces, I don't know what to say about them because I'm not really sure, what I had back in the day, and I'm still not 100%. I wore some of these to high school. So I'm just going to show you some of the things that I wore to high school, and then you'll get the feeling for the 16 and 17-year-old Jason. And the people in the chat, like Tori Goldrick, she's known me since I was like 4 or 5. She sometimes will comment on my videos. She'll testify that, yes, I wore these through high school. And anyone who's watching me from high school, nah. Look at me now, is all I can say. So I had a rough time in high school, as you can all imagine. I would pile these on, and why I show these is years and years and years ago, such beaded necklaces were very inexpensive. They still kind of are from time to time, and I'm not exactly sure why. They're not more revered or appreciated. So for Native American and for early, I always reach for things that other people weren't really reaching for. And I still do that today. I still have built a collection based on that. I should probably move those too. And anyway, so yeah, this I never figured out, by the way. Never figured this out, but I wore this. I wore this as sometimes a headband. I would wear it as a headband, and then sometimes I would wear it just as a necklace, and sometimes I wore it as a belt. So it depended on the day. Oh, and I'd have to sneak these things to school. So Mom, just know that, now you know why I was picked on so bad. But Mom, just remember that, like, when you tell me not to look like a Christmas tree in high school, I didn't listen. So, but I respected my mother very much. I still do. We have that amazing relationship that, most kids dream of having. This was a sterling silver claw or talon style necklace and then beaded, but all the rest of these were just beads. And I don't say just beads because these are very special and most are quite early. The age on these, depending on the way they're beaded, the age on these could be 1910 through around 1940 on most of these. This is newer. You can tell the new ones with that cone style shape. You can tell that, but then and this one too. But then you can see on the rest of these a lot of things that are, well, 3 of them are on sinew, and we'll talk about that. A lot of people wouldn't dream of wearing these. They just wouldn't, but that wasn't me. I was very careful. Like when I was in gym class, I would take them off, and if I was doing something, I never broke any. I don't think I've ever broke any of these, but these were in the box, and I thought that just goes to show you, as even like a quote child and an early adult, I was not thinking like everybody else, and I think that's where. I think that's where it's, I don't know. I mean, I think that's maybe the biggest advantage to what I did back in the day. I don't know how else to word it. It wasn't easy. It was not easy, and it's still not easy, at 50 years old. And I hope that, some youth eventually watches the channel and then, oh, I should show this one. I made this one too. We'll bring this one back on, but I made this one too, and I couldn't find an original, so I made the whole thing, but I couldn't find an original of this, and so, yes, completely hand soldered. I soldered all these. And then other people would look at this and go, well, they're normally commercial. Like that other one that I just had a minute ago that was commercial. I soldered all these together. So yeah, there's my solder seams. And I wanted to make sure it looked handmade, but I couldn't, well, anyways, I couldn't afford one of these. And I don't even know if I could afford one today, but there's a art glass drop that then I did the, cold connection with. And then there's the pendant that I made. I found a small piece of horn. As you know, moonstone is a huge thing from Art Nouveau jewelry and arts and crafts. And so I riveted that through, and this is all horn, and I sawed that out by hand in this dragonfly motif. And very small scale, like the original of this would have been 3 to 4 times the size of this. Oh, and I guess I should say I shouldn't have said that. I ruined it. But I have one of these that's an original now. An Art Nouveau that's an original pendant, and it's signed. And anyways, so now I do have one in my collection that's old. Anyways, I shouldn't have shown that. I should have brought on my quote new one and the old one. All right. So for all of you that have stayed put for 26 minutes of babbling, I wish my middle name was Brooke. That would have been great. Jason Brooke Adams. Jason Brooke. Yeah, I could have been Jason Brooke. That would have worked. But maybe I'd sound too much like a porn star then. All right. So this is petrified wood. No. Okay. Let's do this. Let's, for the sake of the video, call this landscape jasper or agate, whatever you want to go with, semi-transparent, and then we get the lecture, this is that, and this is that. Okay, stop. This is Mother Nature on an incredibly beautiful day, is what this is. And when we see stones this large in Native American jewelry, we understand it's very difficult to get a polish on a stone that large. We know this. It's not easy. And these are absolutely stunning. There's a crow in my backyard. I had to do that for the people that say I'm too much for them. I have too much energy and I'm highly distracted. So there you go. There's a Jason moment that you can simmer with. Let your blood pressure go up. This is Navajo in construction. And I don't miss a beat, by the way. Sterling silver. This cuff bracelet is... this is just outstanding. So circa dating 1920, 1930, based on construction, craft, and the way these are put together, and the ring. But to have a match set, in my years, many, many, many years in the business now, I think I've only seen 2 other, quote, sets. And you could see that that is a set. Same border, same everything. And this came from Red and Glenn, their collection. They were longtime antique dealers here in the area. And Red and Glenn had an amazing collection. And this came from their collection. So they only bought the best. And they could afford to do so. So I got very lucky when I got the call on those. Those have been with me for over 20 years. Would I ever think of selling it? No, because look at that landscape. I'll let you take that in. Look at that. And that's so familiar to me. When I go down to the Valley Park system in Akron and I look at the marsh and I look at the landscape, that's exactly the way it looks. I'll show you this one because this is similar. Now in this box, I haven't seen these for, let me make sure. Oh, yeah, well, my mom could testify for how long it's been, because these were in her house for, I think this box was in my mom's house for over 20 years. It was, yeah. Yeah. So look at this for Native American. I'll let you take that in. And when we see videos on dating and authentic, dating in terms of a time period, and authentic Native American jewelry, I do still have some questions in regards to some of the information that's out there. But on this one, very strong, right at circa 1920. Could it go as early as 1918 on this one? No, it's no, not the way it's constructed. But 1920, 1925 on this specific cuff. and so stunning for turquoise. Look at that surface. Absolutely stunning. And I still wear this one. It's very large. And I love the thickness of the metal. Look at the craft of those. Oh, let's talk value. So when I bought this one, it was $120 or $125. Now this same cuff is, oh boy, on a retail level, $1,200 to $1,500. And someone had questioned me on my values the other day, and I said, well, if you want to sell this, because they said I was like 4 times too much, you know, like my values are 4 times too much. I don't give a lot of light to those comments, but I would challenge someone to sell this to me. If I say 1,200, and you want to sell this to me for 300, I would buy 100 of these from you. So if you want to step up to the plate and say I'm 4 times too much, if you have this bracelet, I would pay you $300 for this every day, every day, all day long. And then I would laugh all the way to the bank on your mistake. Okay, so, wow, that was snarky, and I just didn't care. All right, this one is 14 karat gold, and I think, oh wait, maybe it's 14 and 18 karat gold. And I should probably start editing my videos. I'm not going to, by the way, because you come here for the truth. You come here for the real way I do this. You don't come here to, be lied to. This, no, I can't put it on this neck form. It's just too dirty. But this is fantastic. We'll get into this stone. Everyone runs to amethyst. It's amethyst. No, it's not. It's synthetic, But we'll talk about that. Construction on the metal, very much so Egyptian or Portugal. I would probably go with Egypt on this one. Let me take a look at the hallmark, because I do remember some of these pieces, and then, I've lost track of the information, and I've also lost track of my loop, apparently. I think I'm going to bring this one back on eventually when I see... Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, beginner's luck. So there are, I guess I remembered from a long time ago, there are Egyptian hallmarks right there. So those are Egyptian hallmarks. Sometimes these are also made in Portugal. I've seen the same style made in Portugal. I think the chain that's where it's at. This is 18 karat, and then this is 14 karat. And you can see the color difference. When you say to me, can you show us 18 karat opposed to 14 karat? I can right there. So look at that's 18 karat. And then, oh, by the way, I always say, check a clasp. Look. This clasp is brass and been replaced. Look at the little hallmark right there. The little Egyptian export hallmark on gold. Yeah, soldered together. Hello, solder seams. Finally there's street cred there with Jason's information. Hello, solder seams. And hello, tiny little hallmark saying, hello, I'm 18 karat gold. And I was imported. And someone, I don't know why, but they replaced my clasp with a brass clasp. I did buy this as costume, by the way. So let me be thankful that the person put a brass clasp on that. But again, I would say on this one, value would be, I go with, because of the weight of it, $1,200. And then someone would say, well, that's 4 times too much. And I'd say, then I'll buy this from you for $300. And then I will laugh all the way to the bank when I sell it for 12 or 15 even. But hand-constructed mounting, are you kidding me? Look at the weight of the gold here and how thick and robust. Absolutely gorgeous. I can't believe I gave someone a spotlight that didn't deserve it just now. Why do I do that? I have to stay focused on positive. But, I'm human. You already all know. I don't know why I kept this besides the artistry was just fantastic. And I haven't seen this for a long time. And then, you'll say, well, it's not jewelry. And I'll say, yes, it is. It's jewelry for clothing. It's the most incredible buckle, all hand-painted, Asian, and it does have I think that might be the Ando mark. I have to look these up, because I forget some of this information sometimes. I think it might be. Is that the Ando export mark? Might have to look that up. Might be a different one. It might be earlier. But look at that for nickel silver, which isn't silver at all, nickel, and then bezel set, these hand-painted plaques of these butterflies with that, just absolutely gorgeous surface. Look how finely done those are. And when I bought this was $5. I think I bought this when I was 19 years old. And I just love this. And then now they're like, this is like $350 online, $250 to $350 without getting in trouble. So let's see. And that one, yeah, so old. Now I know why I kept it. This is a refreshing walk down memory lane. I hope you're having fun, everybody. let's see. Oh, my dog's fur. I kept this because I took trimmings of his fur at the veterinary clinic, and this was Onyx's fur from 2/11/08. So that was a treasure that meant a great deal to me. My dogs really, they were so, I get emotional even, from 2008. But yeah, I loved my dogs. I loved my dogs like best friends. And yeah, I just did. This is all bundled up, and I hope this is the ring I thought it was. I should have done a what's in the box video, because then that way I would have, I don't know, I guess I would have blended in with the masses if I did a what's in the box. This is fire agate in 14 karat gold. What on earth is going on? And then you say to me, Jason, do you know that fire agate hardly ever has purple and lavender and pink in it? And I'd say, yeah, but when it's mounted in 14 karat gold, you're in the presence of a great stone. And that's signed right there. This I bought from Candy at the Den of Antiquity. I bought this when I was in high school. And I asked my mom 3 times, can I buy that gold ring that I'll never wear? Can I buy that from Candy? And she said no each time. And then we went to the we went to the Mentor Mall Antique Show when they used to have the antique shows in the malls, and when malls were cool. And I wandered up and I looked at my mom and I go, she still has it. And she finally just surrendered and she goes, okay, just buy it. Just get it over with. And back then she had $800 on this, and it was worth every penny of $800 back then. And she sold it to me for $300 or $350 because she knew I was a child that didn't have any money, and I had to save up for. I think I saved up for at least 6 months or 8 months. I'd have to ask my mom. She remembers this vividly, and when my mom sees this ring, she'll say, "I'm so glad you still have Candy's ring." And we knew this is Candy's ring because I loved Candy very much, and most people here remember Candy. And Merle was her husband, and Candy just had such a soft spot for me, and we had great conversations. I remember just falling madly in love with her, and this ring very much so reminds me of. That was in my formative years of being a dealer and starting a collection. And it was people like Candy that changed my life for the better. And I always wanted to be around positive. I always wanted to be around light. I didn't want to be around darkness, and I didn't want to be around people that were unkind. I wanted to stay in my lane even back then. And yeah, that still smells like her. That still smells like her perfume from all that time ago. Because I do seal that in a bag. Because it does still smell like her. I remember, and anyone who remembers Candy that comes to my channel, just, you probably remember my conversations with her, because we were always, like at the shows, we were always together and we were always kind of chatting. This I'll do more research on. I don't want to talk about stones just yet on this because, well, I'm not going to go there because it's one of 2 stones, and I'm not going to go there for today. We'll leave that out until I do a future video on this. And I fumble with this and fidget with this only because the dangles don't like to lay down, and I like things to look right in my videos so that you get the whole feel for what we're looking at, because you like to go in close, and I don't blame you. Some channels, again, pull it off of Google or pull it off of eBay. Look at this result. Look at that result. Not here. Look at this result in real life. So, all gold. This was sold to me as brass, and I paid $2 for this when I was 21. I think I was 20 or 21, and this is all hand-constructed gold all the way down, and all the drops are there. This is very early. This is extremely early, and that's why I said I want to settle in with this one in a later video, but very high carat gold. Not costume at all. High carat gold and that cold connection and all hand pierced out. So can you see stylistically how this was like my work and my work was like this? There was that reciprocal between form and design and craft. So maybe now in this video it's a little bit more clear that like how else do I describe it? I show you the pieces that I constructed early on, and then I show you pieces that I was inspired by and driven to collect. Does that make sense? There's like a duality there of, there's a layer there that I'll never be able to explain in human words. And I think that's sometimes where I a lot, because I get lost in these pieces and I try to find human words to relate this to my art and my art to this. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do it. I might make my 10,000th video and I might get there. This has been altered. So why they didn't know that this was gold is, see where that had been altered. So part of the chain was added at the back, and then that more newer barrel clasp. So like that chain is really old. I have never seen a link that looks like that, ever. I've never seen that before. So you can tell that that's not original to this drop. This would have been probably a pendant off of a much larger or much more elaborate necklace. And look at that chain though. You know, I'm sure someone's going to come up with a name for this. Someone is, but you can see where that was altered. So that's why I got it for next to nothing. And I think value on that one, based on age and form, it's thousands. You know, it's not just 1,000, it's thousands. And we'll go back to the stones on this. There's one stone that I still want to talk to my gem group. And I forgot to tell you, breaking news. This Tuesday, I'm going to be at I don't really want to talk about this one today. It's Scandinavian enamel. I bought it in Baltimore, and I don't know, I just don't want to talk about it today. It's a panel necklace, but it's not that I find them to be boring, but I do now. I don't know, I'm bored by it. I don't want to talk about it today. And then, let's see here. What is this one? Oh, yeah, this has been with me a long time, too. Enamel. And then we've talked about the whole, genuine cloisonne thing, which is a crock, because, I mean, those are cells that are filled, but that's not hand-done cloisonne. That's machine-stamped cloisonne. So I guess technically still cloisonne. Okay, I get it. Sterling, and I had kept a lot of these through the years, and I think I have the holly one, and I have another flower. This is Signer, and this is Signer Sterling. I only show these because these are in the early part of the collection. I paid $15 from Lee Fana. She had a space on Som Center in Cleveland, and Lee Fana was a very dear friend of mine. I loved her very much. I've touched on Lee Fana before. She got me into this business, and these artistry things were like from the 80s, so you can see, or 90s, who knows, but you can see that like this has been in here in these forever. This I bought for $5 out in Mentor, Ohio. It's Victorian, and we'll talk about material in coming videos. So I can educate everybody on basically a hard rubber, if you will. So pressed and dyed and vulcanite hard rubber. So interesting form on this for a Victorian mourning brooch. Very strong surface. But that was on a $5 table, and that's before I knew what Victorian jewelry was. I just knew it was old. I said, well, that's old, and that's way before I knew what Victorian was. This was a gift from my mom when I was in college, and I'd seen this at an antique shop, and I'd asked for it for Christmas, and she said no. She said, nope, I'm getting you something else. I'm getting you something useful. And I said, okay, no problem. So I knew that I would save up enough money and go back and get it myself. And no, I went back and it was gone. Didn't put two and two together, and for Christmas, my mom handed me a little box, and she went back and she bought this for me. So I'll never sell that for a lavalier necklace. Turn of the century. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for this. I know you watch every one of my videos, and I want to thank you for your generosity through my whole entire life, and I wouldn't be who I am without you. And I thank you, and I appreciate you so much. So thank you, Mom. And I just love that necklace. I guess this video should be inspiration, and also when things mean something. Oh, okay. That's a hold on. That's your grand finale. What is this? Oh, this, I don't want to talk about that either for right now. And then let's do this. Oh, and then I'm going to bring on a strand of pearls really quick. This is carved coral, and this was sold to me by a little old man in Willoughby, Ohio, and he gave me this beautiful little box back in the day. It was $15. This was $15 back in the day. Oh, I guess I extended that. Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's a Jason extension back in the day. Pearl and garnet, like that made sense, right? But yeah, that was so I could wear this. And Yeah, that's so I could wear that. But look at this. And it's got like that double festoon chain and then these carved coral. Most of the time, these are glass. Most of the time, these are just glass, like Czechoslovakian glass. These are not. These are genuine coral. These are 100% genuine coral and hand carved. Most of the time, when you see these, they're either celluloid, plastic, or they're molded Czechoslovakian glass. And those are 100% genuine coral, and then coral beads in between, and sterling silver in that double drop. I bought that. I couldn't get the money out fast enough back in the day. I think his name was Gene. I'll have to ask my mom, because she went down there and she bought me some things for Christmas the one year. She bought me like these composite amber beads from him that he thought were like, fossilized, with like insects and stuff. And they were like a composite amber. They weren't real. But my mom got me those. I still have those in my stuff. I need to make some things. Maybe this video will inspire me to get back in the studio. But this one, from $15 nowadays, this is like $300 at a show. And people would pay the $300. I need to get the polish out of there. That's for sure. I need to get all that silver polish that someone slopped all over this back in the day. But I wish you could see the color of that. It's much more salmon than what it's showing up as and I don't know why. Maybe because, there we go. See, it's just that my light was too bright today. Oh, speaking of lights being too bright, let's not go there. A sterling silver purse that started my collection of sterling silver purses. Look how huge this is. And how I got started on silver purses was so big it won't even fit in the light box. It's massive. And this was sold as silver plate. And it is sterling. It's signed right here. And it was, I don't know how, but they sold it as silver plate. This was $15. And I think this one is like maybe 11 ounces of sterling, all completely hand soldered. I'm now up to hundreds of these in my collection, but look how that looks like silk fabric. And these feel so wonderful. Hand engraved frame. Most of the time plain on the back. Sometimes they're engraved with the name of the person or an address. I do have a couple from prominent families, both local and national, and I can bring those on. I do have a gold mesh purse, too, somewhere. I don't know where that's at now. I'm sure safety deposit, where it belongs. This is one of my earliest squash blossoms, and I'm only going to show you this for a second, because I'm going to bring this on. But I have to do a squash blossom video. Oh, this is going to be a dirty box, but that's okay. This is one of my first. I traded this back in the day. I can't get it in the light box. Let me zoom out a little bit. So thank you again for staying with me, and I appreciate you very, very much. Look at that for Native American and original Navajo. And I love this necklace. I love the color play of the stones, and I loved this. I love this nausea with the hands. This was, back in the day, it was $900, and I had a Chinese turquoise beaded necklace I always wore to school, and I was wearing it to the show. This was at the Richmond Mall, and the gentleman said to me, I think his name was Larry back in the day, and he said to me, hey, would you trade me, because I was looking at this, and I didn't have the money at all, and he said, would you trade me those beads and, maybe $100 for this necklace? Because I was kept looking at it, and I said, so I took the beads off, and I said, most certainly. I had bought the beads at the gem show for, I think they were like $8 a bead. I probably had maybe about $70 in the necklace that I was wearing. And they were Chinese, and I took it. I said, yeah, I took it off, and came home, got the $100. And I went back and I traded, and a lot of times when you trade, you don't get something better than what what you're trading. And this one was the exact opposite. It's very large and it's very old, and I love it so much. And we'll talk about turquoise mine and construction as I fiddle to get it back in there. So squash blossom, we'll talk about that. We'll bring that back on. I want to have a parade of squash blossoms too. I have now I honed my collection down to, I think there's 71 squash blossoms. So we're going to have a squash blossom parade. That's what we're going to have. That we talked about. These we talked about. And then I guess I'll end on this one. And what happened with this is, look how old this is, by the way. So what happened with this is, years and years and years ago, I was riding my bike. I was minding my own business. And I was riding my bike. And I was down in Merriman Valley. And there was a shop. It was called Abby Ann's. And there's like a chain of them here. Not really a chain, but like, you know, kind of like a franchise you buy into the family and you have your shop, you know. And so this necklace was brought in to the shop, and this is craziness. It's $500. And I said, well, for pearls, that's insane. There's no way. Let me make sure this clasp. Let me take a look at this really quick. And so I thought, no, that's way too much. Yeah, 14. Uh-oh. I just lost some of my pens on the floor. That's okay. They're in boxes. It's okay. A little avalanche over here. So anyways, I was minding my own business. I was on my bike, and I went into the shop. Let me kind of, here, I'll prop this up in here. And I should probably re-record this video, but I'm not gonna. And I say it because I don't want to. Like, what is that on Willy Wonka? Is it Veruca Salt that was like that? No, I forget. I don't remember. But she got in trouble because she had a nasty attitude. Let's see here. No, it's not gonna work. Yeah, it is. No, it's not. Okay, maybe it'll work there. All right, I'm gonna pick up my pens while you look at those pearls. So anyways, I went in, and my friend was working there at the time. Well, I say she was a friend because she was an acquaintance, and I had known her for a long time, and I think her name was Yvonne, I think. Or Yvonne. I forget the way she wanted to be, you know, what she wanted, how she wanted you to pronounce it. And we already know that, you know, I don't know how to pronounce things, so I give up. Anyways, so I went in, and she was working, and let me put these pens over here. She, you know, said, hey, I got these pearls in. And I said, okay, you know, my bike's outside. I was a little anxious. I thought, you know, what if something happens to my bike? So I'm in there, and I was panicked, and I didn't really look at them. And they were $500. And she had told me she has a receipt from the Tiny Jewel Box. I think that was the name of the company. Yeah, okay. The Tiny Jewel Box in Washington, D.C. And she says, I have a receipt for these. Look how old this is, by the way. Look how old. And she said, I have a receipt for these. And they're listed as, I forget on the receipt, because I still have the receipt. And I think it was from the maybe the like later 70s, early 80s. I think it was early 80s on these, like 1981, let's say. And so I said to her, well, what did they sell for? And she said back then it was like $4,800 or like $5,800. And I said, oh, no. That's, you know, so this was a learning lesson here. And then as I thought about them, I thought, well, you know, per pearl, maybe they're worth, you know, $20 a pearl. So I counted them, and there was 33 or 34 from memory. And you can count them on your own in the video, and you can see there's probably 33 or 34. Okay. So I said to myself, no, that's like way too much. And, you know, I had that kind of like, not that I knew better than anyone else, but I had different information than everybody else. And I thought, well, no, it's way too much, you know. Then I considered the age of the pouch that they were in, and that oxidation of touch and wear. And then, you know, I saw that there was a 14 karat gold clasp. I knew that was much larger than normal. So knotted in between, and then the luster and the color. And I thought, well, you know what? I think I'm going to offer $300 and see what happens, even though $300 was way too much, according to me. So I offered the $300, and she said, no, I don't think they'll do it. So I said, okay, and I left. And they were there for, I would say, another 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And she said, hey, I think they're willing to sell it. I think they would do $350. And so I decided to save up the $50. This is when I was in an apartment, like efficiency, and $300 was an awful lot of money. And I did. I saved up the $350 and went back and bought them. And then I've stashed them in my stuff. I've stashed them in my stuff for now. I would say I've had them for like 21 years now. And then I did more recent research, and I'm not going to confirm the information just yet, but I have shown these now to 2 GIA graduates, and it is now thought that they are Australian and basically, quote, like South Sea pearls, and I believe Australian. That's at least the information I got. So I did some baseline research, and if you go and look these up and look up Australian natural, you know, ocean pearls per se, or you look up Australian pearls. There is a strand online right now. There's a strand online right now for $39,000. So I'm kind of really glad that I took the chance back then, and look at the luster and the color. So I've kind of, you know, ruined the surprise for the next video on these that I'm going to be bringing back, and have full transparency about these in a specific video and what to look for in pearls, but I do need to do more videos on specific gemstones and their use in jewelry, not just loose gemstones, and by no means a lecture on this and that and the technical nature, because that's not, you can't apply that in person, like you talk about specifics of the RI or the specific gravity of this or the, you talk about this, or Mohs hardness scale. That's all well and great from the scientific aspect. That's not what I do on my channel. I apply that information out in the field, and then like this, I took the chance, and thank God I did. And the color on these, and the luster, but I looked at the original receipt, and there's a couple indications on the original receipt that we are correct on origin on these. And they are absolutely, absolutely beautiful and so stunning. And all I'll say is, I'm so glad that I took the chance on those with that bluish gray. Absolutely gorgeous, and I loved their irregularity. I loved their sensitivity. And if you look up the production of those pearls in the pearl farms, I believe there's Signet. Yeah, I believe Signet is one of the farms. So if you Google the Australian farms and you Google Signet, I believe that's the way it's pronounced. I think that you'll be amazed by what you see in millimeter size, because these go from, I think the one was, the smallest was 11. I think the smallest was 11 and the largest was 15 or 15.5 on these. They're so big. All right, that's it for today. 55 minutes. I've kept you long enough. Happy Sunday. Thanks again for joining in. I really appreciate the love. Thank you for the letters in the mail. I really do appreciate it. I just have to thank you all. There's something that's been going on lately, and you have made life so much easier. You've made me breathe deeper. You've made me walk more proud, and you've really filled me with light and kindness, and really made me focus on the important things in life. I thank all of you, each and every one of you that does anything for me. From the smallest comments in the comment section, they're all monumental to me, and I make sure that I read all of them because I love you guys that much. So go forth with your day, and I always try and do like scenes for the next one. I guess I left off the scenes for the next episode, so you'll just have to come back. I'm looking at my desk and thinking, what should I flash in front of the camera to bring you back? I don't have anything. So all I'll say is, please tune in for the next time, and I love you because I do.